this hopefully the sound is good. I'm sitting in a room that's got a bit of an echo, but otherwise that's fine. Thanks for people for joining this ASPASA Environmental Committee. We're going to record it. It will be on YouTube later. You go in on YouTube ASPASA, and then you'll find it there. The only one that's not there that you can ask Annika to send to you is the illegal mining one we had about a week or two ago. We're not putting that on YouTube because there's highly confidential information in it. Right, so welcome to everybody, and I hope all is well and people are surviving all the negative stuff, which I'm not going to list. Then I just want to, as usual, say that we strictly keep to the Competition Commission rules. We're not going to talk about any Competition Commission issues. I don't think the subject matter allows it because we're dealing with environmental issues. So, but we just need to put that on record. So in case we do get audited or summoned, that we know. So yeah, I think sorry, there's somebody's mic on. Sorry, somebody's got a mic on. Yeah, okay. So thanks for that. I'm going to hand over to basically the chairperson of the committee and also our environmental auditor. Those who do not know him, he's Anthony Bowen. And he's set this thing up and he's going to take us through, and we can't wait to hear what's coming from that side. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Annika, and thank you, everybody else. The guys are still coming in, and I'm handing over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Nico, and good morning, everybody. Yeah, and welcome. This is our second meeting for the year, and I think it's been a very successful one. Could I just ask you all just to switch your video off, because it's better for the bandwidths. There we go. Folks, the agenda this morning is a very interesting one. We've got some very good, highly qualified speakers that are going to share some information with us. I'm going to start off with a bit of a progress report and a few highlights and lowlights of the environmental audits to date. And then we're going to do something on waste management, community relations, biodiversity. Nico's going to do something on illegal mining. And then we'll have a general discussion. So we should be finished well within time. All right, so I'm just going to share my first screen, and we can kick off. You guys see the first screen, Annika?
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
Thanks.
Okay. Seems like we've gone to the end. Anyway, okay, let me just get to the right one. Apologies for that.
Now it's gone. It's not there.
Yeah, yeah.
Still nothing.
All right. Okay, wait, I'll be there in a second. There we go.
There we go.
Should be up now. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's gone again.
Away.
Thank you, Anthony. Perfect.
Is it there, Annika?
Yes, quite
okay.
Clear. Thank you.
Okay, super. All right, folks, good morning again, and again, very warm welcome. I hope it's not too cold in your various areas. Us down here in the Lowveld, it's a lovely warm day so far, but Nico tells me the cold weather's coming. The presentation I'm going to do is a bit of the audit progress to date for 2022. And as you know, the audits, we commenced the new format of audit, both online and physical. So, yeah, An introduction, as you all should by now know, the global focus on environmental and social governance has changed the way that business is conducted in our industry, and you know, people are becoming increasingly environmentally aware and compliant, and the need for compliance is continually increasing. So ASPASA identified the need to carry on with these audits, which we kicked off in 2022. This is just a bit of a background for those of you that weren't part of that process. The audits were designed by the industry, a foreign industry, and we found that there was a need to have a bit of a unique type of design for our audits so that we could cater for a very special type of industry, which is the small-scale mining environment. The Environmental Committee, which was established just after lockdown, so early sort of 2020, comprised of all the member companies and industry representatives. And I was privileged enough to be able to head that committee, and we designed the audit accordingly. So the audits are designed to assist operations to achieve compliance. And I sincerely hope, and certainly the feedback I've had from the audit so far is that we've achieved that. People that have been part of it have been very happy to be part of the environmental audit process. The audit should equip managers with the necessary tools to be able to interact with the NGOs, communities, stakeholders, and that sort of thing. And as I've always said to the various forums, we don't expect the managers to be environmental specialists, but we need to make sure that they have a working knowledge of environmental requirements and the compliance requirements. So it's not intended to be a punitive exercise. We are not out there to beat you with a stick, or not too much, but it will give you a little bit of a stick, but not too much. But we want to raise the level of awareness and compliance so that it is credible, so that ASPASA, being the organization it is, needs to maintain a pretty high standard. So we've based the audits on the generic flow of operations. Apologies to those of you that have been through this and are familiar with it, but just for those that haven't. Basically, this little process flow is what happens on all operations, whether it be hard rock, whether it be salt, clay, sand, dimension stone, it makes no difference. So your top left-hand block is your EIA, EMPR, all your compliance requirements there, and then it goes through the various operational components of an operation. And then, very importantly, the one inside there, the green one, is your SLP, your communities, your neighbors, etc. And we will speak about that in depth a little later on. So the format of the audits, they're either conducted online or physically, and that's on an annual basis. So 1 year you do an online audit, the next year you do a physical audit. The audit comprises of a training module, manager's presentation, and then, of course, the document review. And in the case of physical audits, it'll be a physical site assessment and document review. The manager's presentations are extremely important in this process, because it just gives it allows us to sort of evaluate the level of knowledge and compliance that and expertise that the managers and the team has. So, please view that as quite an important part of what's going on. All the audits make provision for discussions, and it's an interactive type of audit. It's not a one, me talking and everyone listening. I encourage people to please share their opinions, give us good ideas, good practices, and likewise we do the same. So the managers need to have a good understanding of the documentation and compliance requirements. They need to demonstrate a thorough understanding of their mining areas and surrounding areas and all operations there. Stakeholder management, communities, neighbors, and interested and affected parties, commonly known as IAPs. The manager's presentation, as I mentioned, is actually a platform for the manager to showcase the operation. And please, more, in this case, more is better. The more information they put in on that, the better. And we found that, the managers that are given a good presentation generally achieve pretty high marks on the audits, because they are obviously committed and know what's going on their operations. We need mining boundaries looked at. We need water management looked at. We need the runoff and pollution controls, seepage berms, catchment dams, that sort of thing. We're looking at all of this sort of thing. Flood control measures, erosion, 100-year flood lines, all those are vital in environmental issues that need to be managed and need to be in place. Waste management, which is a big one, and one of our topics today is on waste management, because that's one thing I've found across the board so far. Waste management is not up to standard, and people are exposing themselves to penalties and also to very expensive cleanup costs if that does not done properly. Dust control and monitoring, noise control and monitoring, blasting operations, etc. These are all part of the operational side. And then your stakeholder management, that's stakeholders, communities and neighbors, your meetings, your information groups, etc. Alien vegetation control, that's also an area that's not entirely up to standard. Satellite industries, your ready mix plants, brick plants, asphalt plants that are on your site, you are responsible for those. And then importantly, the management and resolution of complaints or inquiries from communities and neighbors. We found that that's also lacking. So basically, these are not on a lot of sites are not up to speed. Just for those who weren't part of the original planning, this is the weighting of the audit. You can see on the left-hand side there, the online compliance audit covers those particular subjects. And you'll notice that things like an EMPR, for example, carry a high weight. Mine plans, social labor plans, your performance assessments, financial provisions, water authorizations, those sort of things. And then the manager's presentation also carries a big one. On the right-hand side is your physical audit. I think those all speak for themselves. Mining boundaries we found is particularly important because there are a couple of operations that the guys really don't know where their boundaries are. And in some cases have gone outside of the mining boundaries, which we all know creates an enormous issue for you. So what is needed in the audits? All the relevant documentation, your appointments, risk assessments, implementations of action plans, knowledge of your satellite industries, and then also, please share your achievements and actions with us. And, little things in environmental management make a big impact. People tend to make the mistake of wanting to score the big hits. It's the little things that very often are more important than the big ones. So managers, please don't delegate your presentation to someone else. It's important that you demonstrate your knowledge and understanding. I need to know what it is that you know. If you get your specialist to do it, it shows me that you actually are not up to speed, and it's not going to work for you. So you also need an understanding of the reports such as noise and dust, the monitoring of the surveys, environmental complaints, issues, and the resolution thereof. So to date, we've done a number of audits. The online audits, the highest so far was 96.19%, the lowest being 87%, and an average of the audits at 91.5%, which I think is a very good indication of the level of compliance that we have in our industry. If you are anything under 85 on an online audit, it's time to go and have a serious look at what your systems are about. The online audit is not easy, folks. The guys that have done it will testify to that. It is difficult. So, to achieve a 96 is a fantastic achievement there. On the physical side, highest was 95.23, lowest was 77.67, average of 90.9%. Also a very good industry average. So both those are quite are good indications of the commitment and what the level of compliance. My findings, and these are just a few of a few findings that I've found on regular occasions. This is both on online and physical. Positive sides, stakeholder engagement, the minutes and meetings. It also, on the negative side, some people do not have those in place, and it's critical that you actually keep those good those records. Community involvement in projects. I was talking earlier on, there were some fantastic ones that I came across in KZN. Patrick did a really superb job on that, recycling and that sort of thing. And then you go on to the other side, some of the other sites also don't do it properly, and they are exposing themselves there. Housekeeping was generally very good. Most of the sites, thank you very much for the people that have participated. The guys really went out and kept, presented a nice clean site on their audits. PTOs, reviews and self-audits was lacking in a lot of instances. Guys, this can help you out of a lot of trouble and a lot of work. So please have a look at that. It is something that I've found that is lacking. Again, on the positive side, fuel and oil management, that was generally very good. Noise and dust control has been very good across the board. Mining boundaries and signage, most operations are pretty smart on that. Water management's good, and appointments have been good. Alien vegetation control, it's some good, some not so good. That's why I've put it in the negative side. And dust housekeeping, there have been the odd ones that are really not up to speed. Then the complaints procedure and records, that's something that in a lot of instances has been a finding. Hazardous material records and management, and your dust buckets. Those are so pretty much a broad spectrum. Have a look at those, and you can certainly have a look and do your own review. Is there someone who wants to say something? Okay. All right. So in general, the scoring, it will reflect the level of compliance as per the day of the audit. Remember, we take a snapshot of the day and we have a look at it. So I can't tell you what it's going to be like tomorrow, what it was like yesterday. We look at exactly what it is today. Now, the scores can differ from the previous audits that were done by Lizette and by Alan, because we've changed the format of the audit and the emphasis. So it's probably not very fair to compare yourself to the last one, but your score does indicate a level of compliance. And then the emphasis should be on achieving compliance, not on getting a good score. Obviously, the two run hand in hand. But really, I think, let's get the level of compliance to where we want it to be. Fallout dust bucket, just an example of that. You're all familiar with what they look like. Folks, please have a look at those. In general, there is quite a few findings on dust buckets. I know there's a problem with theft of these things. I know there's a problem with sabotage, etc. But please, try your best and see what we can do. And then in conclusion, please make use of the audit to achieve your compliance. Existing information is on file. So use that from the about face audits. Use that as a basis for your new audit. I run according to the about face files, so you can use those. And then please remember, once again, audits are there to assist the site managers and their teams to achieve environmental compliance. And I think in a nutshell, that's pretty much where I am. If there are any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. Any questions there? No. Okay, good stuff. Are we still alive, Annika?
Yes, no, we are.
You
Thank
there? Okay.
Anthony.
It went very quiet there for a moment. Okay. All right. Let's move on then to the next subject, which is waste management. And this is something which I mentioned in my presentation there, which found a lot of instances where waste management has not been done properly. Our speaker today is Ashley Kirkard from AFRIMAT. Ashley is busy with her master's and she's specializing in waste management, and that's why I asked her if she would be willing to speak to us. So, Ashley, thank you very much for your presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to you. It's your turn to tell us about waste management.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm just going to share my screen. And if you just give me a moment.
While Ashley's busy, when we did the audits in KZN with her sites there, she'd really gone to a lot of trouble with the files and things. And I never looked at it that specific day, but she made sure I looked at it the next day, and she'd done a fantastic job. So I felt very bad about that.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we've got you.
Yes.
It's great. Thanks, Ashley. You can
Thank
carry on.
Okay. A big welcome to everyone who joined the ASPASA Environmental Committee meeting today. So for the next 20 minutes, I'll be delivering a presentation concerning the waste management context in South Africa, which is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. But first, let me introduce myself. So as Anthony mentioned, my name is Ashley Kirkard. I'm currently employed as an environmental management intern at AFRIMAT, and I'm also completing a master's degree in environmental management with a specialization in waste management at the Northwest University. The agenda for today, let's get right into it. So first off, I will be describing the defining elements of waste management in general, thereafter waste-related legislation in South Africa, legislation that is related directly to the mining sector, how waste management can achieve other environmental objectives in South Africa, environmental management tools, and then good waste management practices and examples thereof. Just to get everyone awake and listening, a waste fact for everyone. So according to the latest available statistics, so this was published this year in March in 2022, South Africans generate roughly 122 million tons of waste per year. That is an astronomical amount. Of this waste, a maximum of only 10% is recycled or recovered from other uses, while at least 90% is landfilled or dumped illegally. Now, this is only for domestic waste, general waste. This is not including the mining sector or any other sectors. So we generate a lot of waste in South Africa. So what is waste management? The term waste management is quite straightforward, actually. Waste management is defined by Demibras as a system comprising of a collection, transportation, pre-treatment, processing, and final abatement of residues, and considers the entirety of activities related to the handling, treating, disposing, or recycling the waste materials generated in different waste streams. Although this definition is quite straightforward, where things get a little more complex is seen in the defining elements of the term waste. Various legislations define waste differently, which will be elaborated on shortly, but the National Environmental Management Waste Act 59 of 2008, Section 1, defines the term waste as any substance, material, object that is unwanted, rejected, abandoned, discarded, or disposed of. And then when you look at B, any other substance, material, or object that is not included in Schedule 3, which I will touch on later. Definition provided by the National Water Act 36 of 1998, and it defines waste as anything that includes solid material or material that is suspended, dissolved, or transported and in water. So why I'm showing you this is just to show how interrelated waste management can be in various other legislations, and not only in the Waste Act. So let's get into the nitty-gritties of waste-related legislation. So it's actually shocking to hear that many people in South Africa are not aware of their constitutional rights. What is even more shocking is the fact that many do not know that Section 24 of the Constitution actually speaks about the environment, and it reads that everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health or well-being, and to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations, which is a big focus on sustainability. The Constitution of South Africa is like the solid concrete foundation of all legislation. Here you can see the legislative hierarchy that indicates the primary legislation includes the Constitution, framework legislation such as the National Environmental Management Act, and sectoral or specific legislations or CMAs such as the National Water Act, the Biodiversity Act, the Water Act, and the Waste Management Act. Then you get your secondary legislation, which is your government notices, your norms and standards, and your ISO and science standards. Although waste management has been making quite a trend in the last few years, and the implementation of legislative documents and policies for waste management has evolved, the regulation of waste has actually been around since the 1919s, sorry. As you can see in number 1, if I can show you here, waste was regulated first by the Public Health Act. And if you go around, you'll see it was then regulated by the Water Act, the Atmospheric Pollution Prevention Act, the ECA, and then by the NEMA, Water Act, and so forth. Now it is legislated by the National Environmental Management Waste Act, which was promulgated in 2008, and then its amendment in 2014. When looking at this diagram, it looks quite intimidating, but I've tried to set out the National Environmental Management Waste Act in a way that will be easy to follow. I'm not going to go too in depth. I'm going to keep it quite brief, otherwise it gets very complicated, and I don't want anyone to go to sleep. So the waste management legislation is actually one of the best pieces of law in the world, similar to the environmental legislation as a whole in South Africa. So it's important to be able to navigate any legislative piece. So when considering the NEMWA, or the Waste Act, the Act is split into various chapters or sections, as we call it. So I've highlighted some important ones. As seen in the diagram, Chapter 2, the Waste Act refers to the National Waste Management Strategy, which I will touch on more in depth later, as well as various norms and standards for waste management, such as the Waste Classification and Management Regulations, which is GNR 634, as well as GNR 365, which are the norms and standards for assessment of waste to landfill for disposal, and GNR 636, which is quite similar to the previous one, but it's the norms and standards for disposal of waste to landfill. So that is the regulations on how you would line your landfill sites, depending on categories varying from A to C, which liners, how many different layers you need, and so forth. So the section also refers to the extended producer responsibility regulations, which state that all producers must submit a monitoring report on an annual basis. So the EPR regs are part of the National Waste Management Strategy as a means to monitor waste creation in various sectors, such as the waste tire sector. So Chapter 3 explains the industry waste management plans, which are plans to be submitted by municipalities yearly in order to capture data. And this is usually submitted on SAWIC, which I will touch on shortly in Chapter 9. So Chapter 4 relates to waste management measures, and it refers to priority waste, which the minister may declare priority waste if he believes that it's dangerous to human well-being. This may include medical waste, asbestos waste, radioactive waste, as a few examples. And then just the Waste Management Bureau is similar to the Waste User Association, but only in the waste management field. So Chapter 5, licensing of waste management activities. These relate to all mining waste, so residue stockpiles and deposits, and the process of licensing your waste or having a license to keep the waste on your site. Next up, the Waste Information System. A lot of people don't know, but similar to the water industry, the system EVULAS, we have our own in the waste industry called SAWIC. So it's the South African Waste Information Center, where municipalities and different users can submit information. You can get your licensing application there and so forth. Chapter 7 is compliance and enforcement. So all your penalties, your offences, everything like that. And then the schedules in this act. So Schedule 3 was mentioned twice in the definition for waste. So you get your category A and your category B waste. Category A is your hazardous waste, category B is your general waste. So when you want to know if your waste is hazardous or general, you can go to Schedule 3 in the Waste Act and it will guide you from there. Here's just a example of what the waste information system looks like. So you'll see there are statistics you can pull, municipal statistics, licensing, and everything like that. And then you have your Schedule 3, which is just an example, category A for hazardous waste and category B for general waste. So moving on to waste management in the mining sector specifically. So various mining waste streams include your normal things like tailing dams, hazardous waste, general waste, medical waste, tires, sewage and wastewater treatment, incinerators, and mining and mineral wastes. So the environmental impacts of these wastes are quite straightforward. Soil pollution is a big one. Water, which includes surface and groundwater pollution, is obviously a source of extensive dust, so you impact the air quality. Sound impacts, and then the lack of management of these types of waste streams on various sites. So the decision on how to handle mineral waste is usually driven by economic policy. So what is the best economic way to handle these offsets mineral wastes? Environmental policy, obviously your National Environmental Management Act, Air Quality Act, and so forth. The integrated waste policy, that would include your SANS, ISO standards, anything like that, and incentives. Is management willing to do the honorable thing and manage the waste in a correct manner? So each of these options have different potential solutions, such as stockpiling, rehabilitation, and reuse if feasible, which is actually the one that you want to do, reuse if you can. And moving on, if my presentation allows me to. Okay, so in the past, residue stockpiles and deposits were guided by the regulations of residue deposit and stockpiles until 2014, as well as the MPRDA and these regulations and the National Water Act Section 21 and GNR 704 for tailings and so forth. So the tailings were regulated by the National Water Act and the stockpiles by the MPRDA. Today, it is actually managed by the Environmental Management Waste Act. So you'll see it is governed now by GNR 632, which is now used as the main regulatory tool relating to residue deposit and stockpiles. So here's just an example for you to see. It is regulated by the Waste Act as of today. Well, not today, from 2015, but that is the one you should look at when you want to know more about the legislation relating to stockpiles and residues. So moving forward, how can waste management play a role in achieving other objectives in South Africa? So as we all know, South Africa is a signatory of the Sustainable Development Goals guided by the UN. So, you know, you would think that only, sorry, I see someone's waiting in the lobby. You can see on the screen that goal 12 is responsible consumption production. So automatically you would think that this is the only goal that is waste related, but I'm here to tell you it is not. Other goals that relate to waste management: clean water and sanitation, quality education, life on land, life below water, climate action, decent work and economic growth. We have a big focus in South Africa on green jobs, sustainable cities and communities, industry, innovation and infrastructure, and good health and well-being. So how is South Africa planning to achieve this? So we have various implementations such as the National Development Plan, the National Government Outcomes, or the Medium-Term Strategic Framework of 2019 to 2024. You have your white paper on integrated pollution and waste management, the National Waste Management Strategy that I focused on previously. We talked about the legislation, the Chemicals and Waste Economy, PAKIZA, and the Green Economy Accord. The National Waste Management Strategy of 2011 has replaced the 2020 has replaced the 2011 version of the National Waste Management Strategy with goals and targets that are more relevant to the current waste management climate in South Africa. So I'm going to go through the pillars of the National Waste Management Strategy. So the first pillar is waste minimization. So the outcome of this pillar is that 40% of waste to be diverted from landfill within 5 years, 55% within 10 years, and at least 70% within 15 years, leading to zero waste going to landfill sites. Now, as it mentioned in the 2011 strategy, the goal was to have zero waste to landfill in 2022. So as we know, we are in 2022 and we are far from that. So let's hope by 2035, we will be closer to that goal. So pillar 2 states effective and sustainable waste services. So the outcome of this pillar is that all South Africans live in clean communities with waste services that are well managed and financially suitable. So as we know, waste services in some areas are not as efficient as they should be. So that is something that needs a big focus. And pillar 3 includes compliance, enforcement, and awareness. This outcome states that mainstreaming of waste awareness and a culture of compliance resulting in zero tolerance of pollution, litter, and illegal dumping. So I don't know if many of you know, but we don't have a lot of legal dumping sites or landfill sites in South Africa so that they are registered. I don't want to lie, but there's a very little percentage of landfill sites in South Africa that are actually legal and registered with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. If we look at this slide, the main goal of the National Waste Management Strategy is to move from a linear economy, so take, make, dispose, to a circular economy. So make, use, recycle, or like we like to call it cradle to grave, or I like to call it cradle to cradle. And then it also has a big focus on the waste management hierarchy. So this is the little upside down triangle you see here, where the main goal is to prevent unnecessary waste production, where the least liked option would be disposal of waste to landfill. But essentially, the real main goal of the National Waste Management Strategy is integrated waste management. So the Department of Fisheries, Forestry and the Environment contend that the main goal of integrated waste management is to optimize waste management by maximizing efficiency and minimizing associated environmental impacts and financial costs. So if you look at this diagram, it's very interrelated. You have your legal compliance, on-site services, solid and liquid waste treatment, commodity trading, and many more. So that is the main goal of the National Waste Management Strategy. But now you're probably asking, but Ashley, we have all of this wonderful legislation and incentive to manage waste effectively in South Africa, but how do we implement it? So may I introduce to you the environmental management tools. So on the screen, you'll see 4 different environmental management tools which can be applicable to waste management or any other sector, air quality, biodiversity, it doesn't matter. So as you can see on the screen, there are 4 different ones. You have first up your regulatory tools, which we call command and control environmental management tools. So these include all of your bans, permits, norms and standards, environmental liabilities, regulations, the EMIs, Environmental Management Inspectorate, or the Green Scorpions, your control enforcement, reporting, auditing, all of that. You also have your marketing tools or economic-based environmental management tools, which are your pricing strategies, your fines and penalties, your fees and user charges, your subsidies, your green public procurements, and so forth. Then you have your civil-based tools, which is my personal favorite. It is your education, awareness, and training, as well as eco-labeling, sustainability reporting, and so forth. And then you have your agreement-based tools, which is not much used in South Africa, maybe more internationally, but that includes your voluntary agreements. So usually states and a sector would agree. This is specifically done in the waste tire industry, where the sector or the business has an agreement with the state that they will regularly let the state know about the workings of their business and so forth. So that's also in relation to the EPR regulations that I spoke of earlier. So the real goal of the environmental management tools is to hybridize the approach. So a hybrid approach would be something like a regulatory tool in conjunction with a market tool, or a regulatory civil-based and a market-based tool used together. So we'd have your laws and regulation as a base. You will make sure that your employees have the applicable training and awareness, and you have some incentive programs, so a fine or penalty to be given if something is not adhered to. So next up, we have our good practice examples. So some of Some of these are examples of hybrid tools used on various sites. So this was achieved with a combination of training, awareness, and regular auditing initiatives by the environmental control officer. So on screen, you'll see we have our separated waste bins, color-coded, marked in a bonded area. You have your area where you collect oil, which have caps, and an additional little bonded area below to catch any oil. You have your salvage yard, which is fenced, and it has a sign in the front. You have your oil in a bonded area and an enclosed area. You have all your old oil in a bonded area in one place. Another example of a mobile diesel bowser that is also in a bonded area. You have your biocell on site, which is used for all contaminated soils on site, which you can put in there. You can also place in the biocell any old gearboxes or anything that leaks grease or oil in the biocell to prevent it from infiltrating the ground when you place it in the salvage yard. So rather opt for placing it in the biocell. You have your bonded diesel bowser area and your separating pits. Although these are photos and these are really specific, I also want everyone just to remember that waste management goes beyond the practical things you do on site. It also includes document control. So making sure that waste inventories are kept up to date, waste manifests are kept on site, and safe disposal certificates are received from your service provider to know that the waste being taken off from your site is being disposed of in an environmentally safe manner. Just something to remember. You cannot expect change without awareness and education as a foundation to facilitate this change. One small gesture can pave the way forward and for a more sustainable future for those after us. I'm not asking everyone to be the Greta Thunberg or the environmental warrior. I'm trying to relay the message that one small change can make a big difference in the future and for those who come after us. If that means carrying around reusable bottles, taking your own bags to the shop, opting for the to not use the plastic straw but the cardboard straw, or I know people have issues with that, or even opting to buy your own reusable metal straw, you do what works for you. Educate yourself on current events. How are you supposed to implement stuff at work as an environmental control officer, as a CEO, or as a manager, if you don't know the applicable laws, the new promulgations, the updated legislation, and so forth? As we all know, ESG, or environmental, social, and governance responsibility, is a big one for us personally and for many companies. And then also, I would want to encourage you to encourage employees to encourage managers to introduce an incentive program in the place of work that will spark the will of all employees to participate in various environmental protection efforts. Recently, I saw something very interesting where a coffee shop actually took old milk cartons or boxes and they made it into a takeaway holder for their cups. So something that they use on a daily basis, they turned into something that can be reused, which is quite clever. And it's just an example of something small that can be done that will change the way forward. Just remember that you are the change that you want to see. So I leave you with this meme, how you feel when you bring your own bag to the grocery store. And I would just like to thank everyone for taking the time to join this meeting today, and for ASPASA for giving me the opportunity to use this platform to speak the word of waste management, which I feel is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Yes, that was a fantastic presentation. It's exactly what I was hoping you were going to give to us. Folks, and just to pick up on a few things that Ashley mentioned there, it's very often, as I said earlier as well, it's and we hadn't spoken, the two of us, but it's sometimes the little things that make a big difference to the environment. And yeah, I certainly would ask you to all, give it a lot of thought of what Ashley was saying there, because she's got some very, very interesting things. Are there any questions or comments for Ashley? No, I see not. Okay, Ashley, thank you so much once again, and well done on that. I think it's a brilliant one. There's a hand. There we go.
Hi, Anthony. Sorry, it's Charlene.
Hello, Charlene. Hi.
Very well done, Ashley. I think, yeah, it was well summed up. And I think your mechanism of management was illustrated by the photos you showed. I think that's brilliant. I want to be very cautious in what I'm doing now. Yeah, I seem to be the bearer of bad news, so let me do this very cautiously. So NEMLA 4 was signed into law on the 22nd of June, and NEMLA 4 has changed the definition of waste forever. And I'm having great big tears about this. The promulgation date of the change of the definition of waste has not been promulgated yet. So we're waiting for that to come. But if you have a look at new NEMLA 4 and the definition of waste, Schedule 3 doesn't exist anymore. Well, the one good thing is residue deposits and residue stockpiles are no longer waste either. So there is some positives. Yeah, there's quite significant changes. Ashley, you're welcome to contact me. I'll send you the information, and we can have a chat if you want.
Hi, Joan. Yeah, it's Ashley here. I am aware of these promulgations, but I opted to keep the current ones in the presentation as I am aware that it has not been actually promulgated yet. So I know there are changes coming, and I am sad about it as well. But for the sake of the time and place we are in now, presently, I opted to present everything as it is still today. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'd also just like to add something in here, and this is for everybody. Your environmental legislation and laws are changing at such a rate. It's actually quite a task to keep up with them. So, folks, you know, what is applicable today is not necessarily what will be applicable tomorrow. So, you really need to keep you up to speed with what is going on. Nico, you also wanted to. You had your hand up there just now.
Thanks. Thanks, Anthony. That was a good presentation. Ashley, thanks. 10 out of 10 for you. It just shows you that out there in the industry, people that are working for some of our members are highly, highly skilled. So 10 out of 10 for that. I've just want to come up with an idea, Anthony, and between Charlene and Ashley. We've got these boffins out there. And maybe you should have a little subcommittee where we can catch up with the legislation and change it and send stuff out to the industry from time to time, because what she's presented now, I'm sure, is very informative. And the other thing I just want to mention is when you stay in Johannesburg, like I used to do, you never knew that it was a problem with waste because you had the municipality look after it. But most of you that are staying in small little towns will know that it's the biggest mess that you've seen in these rubbish dumps, as they call them. You can travel anywhere and you'll see it's a gemors. So maybe this is the type of stuff that we need to share with your local communities too, because I don't think they know it. And the place I stay, it's a big mess. So it would be great if we could use the Ashleys and the other boffins in this industry, because it's a very complicated subject matter, environmental affairs. It's very complicated. For a dummy like me, it takes me a long time to understand what they're talking about. Thanks, Anthony.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? All right, super. Ashley, once again, thank you very much. And yeah, we look forward to keeping you in our fold here for a long time. Right, folks, something which is, we have got a slot for community relations. Unfortunately, our speakers that I'd invited couldn't make it. The folks from AFISAM were otherwise engaged. I've put together just a very brief little presentation here and some things. It's community relations. Before I put the slides up, is a very important part of doing business today. And I think most of you who've been involved in operations and have run operations will realize, or have realized, and some have had some very negative experiences on community relations, and how it can affect and disrupt your operations. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on this as well. It's a difficult subject. It's exceptionally difficult because you never know who you're dealing with. And it really sometimes needs specialist advice and specialist people to be involved in. I know down in KZN, the guys, Jeremy and those guys, have done some exceptional work on community relations. And, you know, it's important that we have a look at that. So I'm going to share this with you. Annika, has it come up?
Not yet, Anthony. There you go. Oh, no, not.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. Thanks.
Got it. Okay, super. Thank you. So, folks, yes, as a lot of you will know, and as a lot of people have seen, communities are encroaching on our mining activities, both informal and informally. That's informal residential areas and informal settlements, and this is becoming an enormous problem for operations. What you find is any open ground next to a mine or so is suddenly occupied, and it affects everything that you do. Oh, can we mute that person, please?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out who it is. There you go.
There we go. Thanks, Annika. Thank you. So, you know, you wake up in the morning and suddenly there's a couple of houses on your boundary, and it's making life very difficult for operational activities to continue, as well as the security, the theft side, the sabotage side, etc., stealing of fences, cables. We know that we know what goes on. So, folks, yeah, it's difficult. Community relations and regular engagements are critical. It's actually become a critical component in maintaining a successful business operation. And your stakeholders, IAPs, neighbors, and communities can positively or negatively affect your operation. I've seen some incredible operations, the way the guys have handled it, especially down in KZN. Patrick from Ninians in Pangeni, they did incredible work to get the community from a very negative community to pretty much a positive side of things, so that they're able to continue work. Yeah, so there we go. So communities and neighbors need to actually understand the benefit and how they benefit from the products produced by our operations. We found that a good understanding of the value of the quarrying or mining activity is essential, but we need to ensure that the impacts of our operations are well controlled, and we need to try and have the least impact on those communities, stakeholders, and of course the environment. So how do we do this? Managers and senior staff need to take ownership of the community relations. Folks, you can't do it any other way. You need to really roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. The success stories that we've seen are guys that have really got stuck in, and they've gone the extra mile, and some of them have gone way beyond the call of their duty, but it has certainly paid off. If you delegate the duties to other staff members, it's important that you need regular feedback so that you are up to date with what is going on. What happens is people come in to your operation to talk to the manager. If you're not available, they'll accept that, and then they talk to your delegate. But next time they come, they want to speak to you, and ultimately they want the guy in charge. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're immediately on the back foot, and you're going to get hammered. Community risk assessments, those need to be done on a regular basis. There's been some fantastic work done by some of our members. Letitia has done an incredible job on that, and really they know exactly who's high risk, who's medium risk, and they do this on a regular basis. Please remember as well that your community can go from a low risk community to a high risk very, very quickly. So you need to keep your finger on the pulse here and know what's going on. If you do your, well, when you, not if when you do your risk assessments, you need to address those risks as speedily as possible. Don't sit on it. The quicker you act in these forums, the better. Incorrect and insufficient community engagement can lead to, obviously it results in disruptions to operations. They have the ability to stop, disrupt, or negatively impact operations. And communities, let's be honest, in South Africa today are able to destroy or sabotage your infrastructure, intimidate or injure your staff. There have even been instances where staff members have been murdered. We are all familiar with that in northern KZN. It's something we really need to look at and to put measures in place to prevent this sort of thing. When dealing with communities and stakeholders, we've also found that a lot of instances people are not taking the traditional and cultural practices into consideration. It's a good idea to respect that, specifically in terms of who needs to be spoken to and who needs to be included in the forums, or who needs to set up the forums, for example. In your more rural areas and your traditional areas, it's very important. It's a very important aspect, so please have a look at that. And then the establishment of the correct community forum is essential. And this subject, that line is a mammoth task, because we've seen it so often. Guys establish their community forums. They think they've got it all sorted out, and then someone else arrives and says, I'm actually the person who's the representative. So you start all over again. So, be very wary and careful how you do it. You need to try and get to the right people. Something that I mentioned in the audit findings is the accurate and precise records and minutes of meetings. This is very, very important that you keep this, because you establish a paper trail, you establish a trail with the people involved, and it just takes a lot of guesswork and he said, she said, I said, could have been, what if, out of the equation. Then you work on facts. And then transparency and honesty are key factors in successful community relations. Folks, please, if you can't, you can't. And if you can, if you say you can, you must do it. Don't let this thing bubble over. So, negative effects of mining and other operations on neighbors. We know what that's all about. There's dust, there's noise, there's traffic, there's vibrations, etc., etc., etc. Water gets polluted, etc. So we need to minimize those things, and it's very much in line with what Ashley was also saying in terms of waste management, etc., and the effect that we have on our neighboring environment. When dealing with communities, please ensure prompt feedback. The longer you leave an outstanding issue, the bigger it becomes. So if you are approached, give feedback. Even if that feedback is not exactly what that community wants to hear, at least they know they are getting feedback from you, and if it's honest feedback. We also then must please avoid creating unrealistic expectations. And I say this in the training module that we do. South Africans are wonderful people, and we've got our own language. And when you're in a difficult situations, the standard answer is, I'll see if I can make a plan. And those words mean very different things to different people. And very often you find that people leave those meetings saying, okay, the manager said he'll make a plan, he's going to sort it out. And that manager knows full well he can't do it. So you've already created an expectation. You can't do it. And those people go away there expecting whatever it is that they've asked for. And then in a month or 6 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, whatever the case might be, they come back and the tempers are flaring and the tires are burning and there's a big story. So rather say, we can't do it, but this is what we can do. Okay, and then obviously clear and open communication must be in place. If people do want to lodge a complaint or have a meeting, there must be a process. There must be a path where they're able to follow, and it must be clear, open, and it must get done quickly. This is just, I included this slide, and this is an operation in KZN. And one can see how close the communities, if you look at the background there on the left-hand side of this photo, you can see how the communities are encroaching onto this operation. And it, it obviously has a huge impact the way that these guys will now operate. Because those residential areas are coming closer and closer and closer to the mining boundaries. And it has all sorts of social and economic impacts that we need to look at. From the complaints that ASPASA has got from neighbors and stakeholders, and I use this really to demonstrate the impacts and what people are complaining about. Your dust is 11% of the complaints. Noise and vibrations is 18%. If you look at those two combined, it's 29%, and that really relates to your activities like blasting, crushing and screening, hauling, etc. A big, almost a third of the complaints relate to those two sectors. Then you look at trucks and truck management. This is both on-site and off-site. Don't forget the off-site impact, because that also gets people very upset. And then, of course, you've got your works on affecting highways. Remember, if they're working on the road, nobody complains to the contractor on the road. They follow the truck that has caused them an inconvenience, and that goes back to the quarry or the mine. So the mine is the person that's the culprit. Mines are very easy to blame, because that's just the way it is. And so to have a look at that, always keep that in mind, and we can carry on from there. Now, this photo was taken. This is a work on one of the major routes, and you know, when people operate like this, with dust all over the place, crossing a major highway, you can only expect to have complaints from neighbors and stakeholders. And this particular instance was an operation that started up in the morning. The guys did a pre-start inspection, and they reported that the dust suppression pipe was broken. It wasn't, you know, but of course they were chasing production and got to go. Once the proverbial had hit the fan here, and everybody had now stopped the operation, to fix the pipe was literally 10 or 15 minutes. But they'd had the stoppage now for 3 hours. So, you know, economically, why didn't they just fix it in the beginning before they started up? But this is the sort of thing that happens. And then, you know, people say, oh, but people are complaining, etc., etc. But quite rightly, they should be. As we mentioned before, community complaints need to be formally recorded and resolved by the correct members of staff. Please, it must be done at the right level. And there must be a record, a formal record of this, so that you can go back to it. And, you know, if there have been staff changes, for example, that at least there's a record, you know, and there's a history there. Community requests, the same thing. And it needs to be addressed by the correct level of management. If you can't do it at the site level, it needs to be escalated to your senior and exco levels. Feedback about complaints and requests is required, and it's very important. And then share your successes relating to community projects and assistance projects. Don't be ashamed to do that, because the more people can see that you are doing things and that it's successful, and you do a bit of a spin and a media spin on that, it's always good for you. So in conclusion, operations are well advised to ensure that the community relations are well managed. Please treat all stakeholders with equal importance and ensure that our operations have the minimal impact on our communities, and then ensure that accurate and up-to-date records and minutes are kept and are available at all times. Folks, please, the issue of community relations is vitally important, and please give it the necessary attention. Okay, and that is me for the moment. Are there any questions or comments on that? No, nobody. Okay, super. All right. Our next speaker is Phumelelo Mbali from AfriMet. Phumelelo is the environmental specialist in one of the regions of AfriMet, and he has his master's degree in environmental science, and he's going to talk to us about biodiversity, the biodiversity offset challenges for the mining industry. Phumelelo, if you're there.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm here, Anthony.
Righto, good. Welcome. Thank you very much for your time and efforts. If you could put your presentation up, you can carry on.
Okay.
While we're waiting for him there, he's down the Western Cape side, and I got hold of him at a recent audit down there, so that's where we got him. You're not on the right place yet.
Yeah, now I'm trying to show that we are opening the right screen. Okay, let's see. What can you see from my screen?
Nothing.
Nothing
at the moment. There we go. If you can go into presentation mode, it'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, as Anthony said, I'm an environmental specialist for AfriMet, especially for the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape region. As I said, I've got a master's degree in environmental water science, and I've been working as a consultant for the last 6-7 years for a private company, and then I joined AfriMet. So my presentation is more, I know this platform has got a different kind of people in the whole ASPASA chains, but this one is just for me. I've just felt it's an interest that I'd like to share with us here so that we know one of the challenges that is coming for us as a mining industry and what we should do moving forward, or whether or not should what steps can we take to maybe push back against this biodiversity offset policy that is being set up by the government. So the National Biodiversity Guideline is set up by Department of Environmental Affairs, and it had went up for comment in April this year. So the aim of this policy is to ensure that you offset the impacts that a quarry or a diamond mine, a gold mine does. So what it says is that if you are going to be mining in an area that is defined to have critical plant species or animal species, or you're going to be mining in a protected area, like a national park, then you will have to offset. And the offset, which is now, it means that, so for every impact, if for instance you want to get 5 hectares of your mine in a protected area, then you're going to have to buy land on another area to offset that impact that you're going to cause in that area that has got sensitive environment. And it's only required if you are if your mitigation, your avoidance, or your management will not offset the permanent impact, which is for us as quarries especially, we're always going to cause permanent impact for some of the excavations. You cannot rehabilitate it back to the state it was. So what this does, and I'm saying this because normally now for our side, this is done by consultants for us where they do these applications for us, but then they will encounter these for us, where they will tell us that what we want, that the dolomite mine that we want or the sand mine is actually in a sensitive vegetation area. And so we'd have to then take a decision whether it's financially well enough for us to buy land for the state so that we can get that sand or that dolomite reserve. And it's the challenge with this is that you normally get it for, if you offset, you must, if for instance, let's say you're going to mine in a fynbos area, then you must buy land in a fynbos area. So you cannot just say you'll be mining in a fynbos area and now you go buy land in some other area that is not similar to that. That's why it's a like for like switch. And it's only if you say, if it's confirmed that your impacts will be permanent. So the other issue is that if the buying of this land, it's all in the cost of the applicant, which is us, the mining industry. So if AfriMed, for our instance, if we want to get a 10-hectare site somewhere, we've got to make sure that we are responsible for paying for the land and management of the land. So that is the challenge that now is coming for us now, where we are actually in an area now where you cannot actually move to a certain area unless you can buy land. And the other big challenge is that you cannot get the approval until you have bought the land. So it's actually now, it's a very serious implications for us as a mining industry, because any extension you want to do for your quarry or anything, if it's in the sensitive area, the Cape Natures or national parks can complain and say you need to buy them and offset elsewhere. So the offset land, as I said, is bought by the applicant, but then it's going to be managed by a conservation body. It can be Cape Nature, Kruger National Park, and as the applicant, you then have to pay the annual fees to help manage that. So for the rest of your life of your mine, you have to maybe, let's say for instance, pay 100,000 fee every year to help that nature body to manage that. And then the other big problem with that is that even if you say you've got the money to buy the land, the offsetting process can take as much as 5 years. So it's from my side, and I'm talking from AfriMed side, and I mean from industry as well, it's a very costly and a very administrative nightmare process for us, because especially for small miners, we don't have 5 years to be waiting for an application, and it's costly. And I think, as Anthony said, that we've always got new regulations. Regulations of today, tomorrow may change, and I think that's why now even the Arnold Fraser Institute has now ranked South Africa as one of the 10th worst mining investment for attractiveness because of these regulations such as this one. So it's a new thing that hasn't been put into law, but it's gone out for public. It's going to be a policy first, but eventually I think they will try to insert it as one of an act that is now enforceable. Just to give you an illustration of examples of what I mean instead of the words, is that, for instance, if this green here, this lime is a critical biodiversity area. So it's an area that's got a sensitive vegetation. It's been mapped by national governments as having sensitive vegetation. So if your mine is 88 hectares, in terms of this new policy, you would have to go buy, at a factor of 1 in 3, 266 hectares of similar vegetation elsewhere before you even start mining. Similarly, if 15 hectares, you have to go buy 45 hectares elsewhere as well. And now the challenge with this is it's 1 in 3 standard policy, but if you cannot find similar land to what you are disturbing, it can be 1 in 5. So the 15 can easily go to 60 hectares or 75 hectares that you have to buy before you even start mining, because your authorization or your approval would be based on the fact that you've secured land for the state and you will manage the land for the state for the rest of your mine. And now, from our side and for us, it's not going to work, because we don't, especially from an aggregate point of view, there's not a lot of money that you can just spend before you even start generating some income or revenue. So the challenges for us as a mining industry is that we cannot this law, the way it's set up, although it's applicable to every development, it's set up such that it's almost as if it's made for if you want to build houses or you want to build malls. Whereas, so in that instance, you would be able to just move your mall outside of this sensitive area. But for us as a mining industry, the geology dictates where you have to go. You cannot move your dolerite or your diamonds elsewhere. So it's not, for us, it's not applicable, or it should not be applicable. But the way it's written is that we are also supposed to get these offsets. And I know for us, one of our sites here in Western Cape, we've also encountered this challenge, and it's become, I mean, we've been negotiating with Cape Nature, and it's been weeks now. They're certainly starting to understand, but they are still very much adamant that an offset may still be needed, and therefore it's a challenge that we have to look forward to it and be maybe push back from ASPASA side and other mining bodies to ensure that maybe we can do something where it's not always one size fits all from the mining industry perspective. And when Environmental Affairs presented this on an online course, they said that they don't see why mining companies should not do offset feasibility studies before they even do the application. And then the issue there that was raised was that in mining it's business. So by the time you're doing feasibility studies, some guy can jump you and go apply before you do, and it's first come first serve. So it's not practical for us in mining to even do the feasibility studies before you even start the applications. And I mean, again, as I say, for small businesses in our country, it's not going to work for us mining to start buying land before you even move to certain areas. So my short presentation today is that it's just for us to be alert that there may be a new fight that is coming for us, and now we need to maybe engage the government on how to provide exemptions. I don't know if the exemptions would be for small mining or for mining in general, but this policy that is being moved around now, which doesn't consider social or economic aspects, is really going to put us under serious pressure for expansions of our mines or even acquiring new mines, because some of the mines are really in these critical biodiversity areas and you cannot avoid that. But this kind of law or policy would then mean that it may be more costly to do the application than what you will make in your operations, and therefore it becomes a problem. So for us as ASPASA and other bodies, and I mean the mining industry in general, this is something that we must look at it with serious eyes and try to ensure that we don't get affected adversely. And yeah, so in general, that's just my short presentation, because I didn't want to go into the specific details of what it entails, because that is a technical thing that we don't really deal with as a mine managers, and some of it's going to be maybe dealt with by your consultant. But I just wanted us to inform us of what is actually coming and how the Department of Environmental Affairs is slowly encroaching the viability of our industry. And so with that, I'm going to end my short presentation. I don't know if there's any questions for it.
Thank you, Sipho. Yeah, there, Charlene.
Good morning. I think for Malelo, it's exactly what you said. When the guidelines came out in 2011, I said, "Ooh, no," but it's turned out more night than I thought. So,
Yeah.
so here's, I think, an approach to the system. Number one, every environmental officer on every mine needs to know how the screening tool works. So I think that's a critical, valuable lesson to get under the belt. Number two, the base data used in the screening tool is not always accurate. Now, to fix that, you need to look at your mine and verify that the base data that says whether something is a critical biodiversity area or not, you need to go and verify that critical data. And based on that, you can then identify opportunities where it's possible to change the approach in your application. So my approach is more a proactive approach, and in that way, you can do. But I mean, once something has been defined, a critical biodiversity area, and correctly, there's no other way. I mean, then obviously it is the it is the worst case scenario. What I must say, in my experience, is that when something is truly considered a critical biodiversity area, it's not, they're not waiting for the legislation to be promulgated. When it's truly considered a critical biodiversity area, you're forced to have a way and a means to deal with it, because what, like Anthony said, your interested and affected parties will make sure that you do the right thing. So let's see whether it's the right thing or not. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, the other issue is that with as you rightly say, that you need I mean, what is this, a ground truthing of making sure what their maps say and what is actually on the ground is true. But sometimes you would see, I mean, especially from some of the applications we deal with, where you get a State Department being adamant that, no, according to mapping so and so of the national guidelines, this is this. And so it really needs us to look into it, because I personally feel that we are better off looking for some form of exemptions to a certain degree, because eventually we will need to mine in some of these CBA areas, because we need the minerals. Otherwise, it's just going to be costly.
I agree. There's no priority system to determine. I mean, minerals are also a national asset. Biodiversity is also a national asset. We should actually have a capacity to say, both these are national assets. Why does one get priority over the other?
Correct.
Can I interject here just for a moment? You know, I think a lot of this legislation, if you go and have a look, just for example, at the eastern Mpumalanga region, and the degradation and absolute decimation that the coal mining industry has done there, and I mean, it's ruined that whole region. If you go from basically from Bronkhorstspruit right down to Belfast, it's a nightmare. And this, you probably find that this legislation is aimed at preventing that sort of thing. Unfortunately, we're going to have the, you know, we're going to be penalized for something we haven't done. But there's definitely a reason why they've put that in place. Eh?
Yeah, no, I mean, Anthony, you're right about this. The fact is that most of our environmental laws are reactive. They are reactive to how the mining industry has been irresponsible in certain aspects. Now, the only issue is that the reactiveness becomes a blanket approach, where it's just everyone, this is now the new bar, this is the standard. But I mean, I agree that there are certain instances where the mining industry has done poorly, very poorly, and that's why we need these legislations. But there needs to be a certain ranking that says, for this type of vegetation, there's a certain leeway. But to now apply it, I mean, imagine if I am not even working for Afrimed, but I saw a mineral, and now I have to deal with these. It becomes almost impossible for me to own a mine.
No, you're quite right. It's a blunt instrument tool. Charlene, is it still open for comment? Is there still chance to comment on this?
It's open, but it's not promulgated yet. But it doesn't matter that it's not promulgated. I mean, I've dealt with offsets since 2018. It doesn't matter whether it's promulgated or not, because your public participation leads you to having to
Leads
deal
you
with
there.
offsets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand. I mean, this guideline, or this specific one, is 1 in 3. We had dealt with guidelines that give 1 in 18. So you need to
Sure.
multiply what you have to 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, the frustration is associated with declaration of certain areas as critical biodiversity areas without assessing or ground truthing the information.
Yeah.
So to me,
Yeah.
that's where the problem lies, because ACOX in 1950 saw something, we now need to adhere to what it looked like in 1950, and we need to use the maps as if it was 1950. Since
Yeah.
then, it's been plowed, it's been demolished, and understand. I mean, the mining industry uses less than 1% of surface area in South Africa. The farming industry use more than 70% of surface area in South Africa. We're the wrong guys that's being picked on here, but we are.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, mining is a very easy target. It's a big one, and yeah, that's just the way it is. You know, environmental groups and laws always target mining industries.
Yeah.
Folks, are there any other comments or questions regarding this presentation? Super, thank you very much. I think that's from it's got a lot of people thinking now, and unfortunately, yeah, it is the reality. But thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and for your presentation, and for your efforts. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you for having me as well. I actually had to stop in the mighty city of Janssenville in the middle of Eastern Cape.
Oh, okay, you're down there now. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm in a car now, but I thought, yeah, let me attend, and then I'll go on to where I have to go to Middleburg now. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. No, great stuff. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Sipho. Okay, folks. Nico's going to give us a quick chat on illegal mining. I think that's quite a topical thing as well at the moment. We've all seen it happening. We all know what's going on in certain areas, and you know, it's not just in the big gold mines and platinum mines and chrome mines that it's happening, but your sand mines, your all sorts of borrow pits, etc. So, Nico, you there? How's that?
Thanks,
We can see you.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm not going to show. Sorry, I haven't had beer, but I'm not going to show slides. I'm just going to quickly recap. I'm a bit perturbed about the industry's commitment to illegal mining. We had about 2 weeks ago, we had a nice conference, and we had very good speakers, and we discussed some serious stuff. But I've been sending out a request for information on illegal aggregate sand, marble, and other surface mining. I don't get any responses. Once here and there, I get an email saying, okay, we're also having the problem. So it seems to me that we don't have a problem in this part of the industry on illegal mining or on mafias or this. So I just wanted to raise it. I think illegal mining in connection with today's meeting, I mean, it's waste management. You can see that that's a problem. Even the presentation we had now, the communities and so forth will definitely become involved. So there was a circular request for information on illegal mining that I sent out, not one response. So it's very difficult for us as ASPASA to, because I serve on a committee that's run by the Minerals Council, to say that it's affecting us. because I'm not getting any information. So I'm a bit negative about it. You can hear that I'm talking in the press and I'm all over the place saying illegal mining, and I'm not too sure if it's true. Maybe it's not, and then I need to start keeping quiet. So I think that's the thing, and I read it and I see that the construction mafia is not only targeting building sites or what they call construction sites, but they are targeting everything. So I thought today I just wanted to say, yo, if there's stuff, then we can, because I need to feed it into the Minerals Council, which feeds it into the DMR, we feed it into the police, what they call the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, and so forth and so forth. You've all seen the carte blanche program that they had where the choppers went in and they caught the guys and so forth and so forth and so forth. So that's quite interesting, but we need to do something, and I think that's what the bigger industry is asking for. I see the minerals, the Master Builders Association, the Construction Alliance, we all need to put that in. I'm having a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the Minerals Council's top committee on illegal mining, as they call it, and I basically have nothing to tell them. I don't even know if it's true that it's affecting us. Here and there it might be. So I think that's my chirp today, is to say I'm not going to do a good big presentation and there's no problems in our part of the industry, so nobody's listening to me in any way. But I think what we need to do is to feed the stuff in so we can make sure that our story also gets to those people who are dealing with it, the national, they call it NICOC, the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, and the Minerals Council, and so forth and so forth. So, Anthony, that's roughly what I just wanted to say about illegal mining, because we don't want to keep on moaning and groaning about illegal mining, because there's also shareholders that think, oh well, this part of the industry is not worthwhile putting money into, and we'd rather go and put it into something else. And that's why I'm saying I'm not too sure how serious this is affecting us, and I'm not getting information. So I'm going to cut off there, Anthony, and hopefully people will come back to me and say, this is some of the problems we're having. And we can put that into a document and send it up to the systems, because I can't go and catch the people, and I think the local police in your town or in your area are not very interested in catching people illegally mining. So that's the story behind the story. Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Nico. Yeah, folks, whoever's on the call, I think we've seen the circulars that have gone out, the requests for information, and I think it is your duty to, if you are aware of illegal activities, and it's particularly prevalent in the sand industry, please, bring this to Nico's attention so that we can forward it to the relevant authorities, and hopefully something will get done. It's very difficult from a ASPASA side to beat the drum when you don't get the specifics. Yeah. Anyway, I think we've sort of reached the end. If there's anybody that has anything that they'd like to share with us, please feel free. Put your hand up. Let's have a look-see. No, nothing yet. All right. Well, then from my side, I think we're pretty much done with what we're doing. I would just like to thank certainly our presenters, two very dynamic young people that did lovely presentations for us. Thank you very much, and most certainly will be using you in the future. You didn't think you're going to get away with once off. And if there's anyone that would like to present on our meetings, there we go, Charlene, thank you. If there's anybody who feels that they'd like to share information on this forum, please contact me. You can either go through ASPASA or directly to me. It's not a problem, and we most certainly would appreciate, the sharing of information and something that you are a specialist in, or some good practice that you've done. We're always looking for those, and as an industry, we need to ensure that our environmental compliance and practices are top class. I'm done on that. Nico, if you'd like to just close off the meeting, then from my side, thank you all very much for dialing in. Thank you, Annika, for your help with the agendas and recording. And thanks to ASPASA for giving us the format. Nico?
Thanks, Anthony. Now, I don't want to say much more. I think we can sit and waffle here for a long time. But thanks for your commitment. You're running this part of our business very well, and I'm so chuffed you're finding these boffins out there. Find some more. Great work that you're doing. Thank you very much to everybody for connecting, and we'll send out in a few days' time the connection to this recording. Thank you very much.
Right, folks, goodbye. Thank you, and have a very good, safe day.
Bye-bye, everybody.